For the Village of Sleepy Hollow. We have a very full agenda. There are a few agenda items which are no longer on the agenda itself. The applications for 196 Cortlandt Street and 144 Cortlandt Street, both by Sleepy Hollow Holdings LLC, had problems with notification to nearby and neighboring properties. And so those are off of the agenda tonight. Item 6, which was 9 Irving Place, Elizabeth Hill, and Richard, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Tobias, I believe. My apologies if I've mangled that person's last name, but 9 Irving Plaza has been withdrawn. The application has been completely withdrawn. So we have 5 applications, and we'll take them in the order in which we have them. The first application is for Sean and Susan Tracy at 229 Weber Avenue. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019 at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building at 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider the application by Sean and Susan Tracy to construct a covered front porch where the following variances are required. The first variance is Article 6, 450-34B, applicability of regulations adding to or altering an existing non-conforming building. Minimum front yard setback is 20 feet. The existing front yard setback is 0.63 feet. The second variance is Article 6, 450-35, Schedule of Regulations. Minimum front yard setback 20 feet. The existing front yard setback 0.63 feet. Proposed front yard setback at 1.40 feet. The property involved in the application is located at 229 Weber Avenue, is situated in the R3 zoning district, and is shown on town tax assessment maps as section 115.8, block 1, lot 3. A copy of the application and proposal is available for review at the Department of Architecture, Land Use Development, Buildings and Building Compliance during normal business hours. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing by order of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. In the packet, we have a zoning compliance form. We have part 1 of a short environmental assessment form, or the SEAF. All 3 pages of that. We have parts 1 through 4 of the zoning application itself. We have the disclosure statement, which is part 4, signed and notarized. We have a copy of the deed for the property, a set of pictures that were given to us by the applicant, and also a set of drawings. Sean, are all of the returns back?
Yes, notice has been completed.
Okay. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. We're proposing to replace, there's an existing concrete pad that's in front of the house. At one point, there was a roof. That was taken off decades ago. And the pad itself is failing. If you see the photos that we gave you, it's very unsafe. And we've just had a fire in the house. We were out of the house for a year, and we've done a ton of renovations inside. We've also replaced all the windows, new roof, new siding, a new back deck, and now this is our final bid to put this house back the way it should be. And so what we'd like to do is replace the exact same dimensions, except with a portico rather than a full roof going across the front. And we think that will really improve the appearance of the house, because it looks kind of like a circus right now with this big dip in the front on the porch. And we're frankly very concerned that it might just fall apart while we're standing there, you know, so. Okay.
Questions from the board members?
I have one question. Oh. I have one question, and that is, it looks like the dimensions are the same, but the variance actually is better? I mean, the variance that you state here for the front yard was a minimum of 20, which is existing, right? And the existing is .63, and the proposed is 1 foot 4 inches?
I didn't do the application.
Am I missing something?
It's coming back from the property
The footprint.
setback.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, the porch itself, I guess because we were trying to save a buck on the dimensions, you know, we brought it back a little bit.
Yeah, so you're actually improving
Exactly.
the setback. Okay.
There's also steps that were originally, this is the existing survey that shows where the deck is. You should have that in your pack. My name is Ed
Yeah.
Chimolo, I'm an architect out of Oakland.
Mhm.
There's also a photo I had, which you said this has to be 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it's all cleared out now. It's, you can really see it well now.
When the shrubs are in there, I mean, it's pretty, you know, it's a good buffer because the road is right here, but when you look at the proposed site plan, everything is exactly in the same place, and we held it back slightly here, but I don't know if they're counting, if part of this is the steps to get up to the variance. So this is all in concrete, and the whole deck is in concrete. And then there is also a front elevation that shows what we tried to do, just get cover over the entrance. The EC drawing is the way it existed. The plan, the foundation, the original steps, which were slabs of, I'm not sure if they were granite or slate, a long time ago. And this was, when we got there was no roof. You can see the signs of what was there. A long time ago.
And also, we're going to use the same company that did the rear deck. And the rear deck is Trex, and we'll be doing the same types of material on the front. So it's going to be first class. Sean can tell you about the quality of the work that these guys did. It was excellent.
All the work has been done very nicely.
There's also a D drawing, which is the demolition, shows what came out. And then this is actually the posts and structure for the new deck and the steps. And there's a dash line here, which, if you go to the elevation, shows the elevation.
So I say on that.
Okay.
We just covered the
Right.
the area right at the front door, when you come up, which is in line with the front part of the deck.
Okay.
These windows are existing, they might have been replaced on them.
And we tried to recreate the roof line too.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, while I think all of that's great, our issue really is we just have to look at the setbacks and the non-conformity. And certainly you're trying to address that by pulling that back a bit. I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone from the public present tonight who would like to comment on this particular application? Hearing none, I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Are there any comments, questions additional for the,
Mr. Chairman, you should also note that This house is very similar to many of the homes on Weber Avenue in which the front yards do encroach into the required setback.
Right.
So it's very similar in that neighborhood to have this condition.
So it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
It's 1883 it was built,
Right.
well before the zoning codes.
Same as
Yes,
mine.
it was.
Yep.
It's almost as old as me.
And in this particular case, this is actually the last house on that block. And if there was another house on the other side, we'd actually be able to take the average setback, and they may
Right.
not even be here. But
Right,
because of the existing condition and the fact that where the house is located,
Right.
he's here tonight seeking your approval.
Right.
Okay.
I have no questions.
No
No
question.
questions? I would,
Nothing for me.
I would make a motion to approve the requested variances. I don't believe that they'll create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. It's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and it shouldn't be a detriment to any nearby properties. By granting them, I think it'll benefit the applicant. This is certainly a minor variance to begin with, and it's not substantial, and it's not self-created, and I think that overall it will actually have a slight benefit since you're moving it back just a bit, and it's certainly in keeping with the character of the rest of the buildings in that area in terms of the architecture. So I would make a motion to approve the
Second?
variance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Folks?
Thank you. Do you want your photographs?
We have
Okay.
All right.
Do you need any additional plans?
You need to,
'Cause- No? All right,
your pictures?
I'll take the topos.
okay,
I'm sure
please,
they'll come up with that.
sure.
Sorry, which ones do you want?
Clips in that box. I didn't have a clip on that one.
Yeah, because otherwise we
You
just
can go through
recycle
it,
it.
you go through it, Sean, and then figure out what you want.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, John.
Next one is Brian.
I'll start my new pile there.
Yeah, that's straightforward.
2 points. You could play for the next. The second item is Brian and Brittany Johnston at 86 Howard Street, a proposed deck addition. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019 at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider the application by Brian Johnston to construct an open rear deck addition to an existing single-family residence where the following variance is required. The first variance is Article 6, 450-34B, applicability of regulations adding to and altering an existing non-conforming building. The minimum lot area is 4,000 square feet. The existing lot is 3,300. The minimum lot width is 40 feet. The existing lot width is 33 feet. The minimum front yard setback is 20 feet. The existing front yard setback is 9.87 feet. Minimum combined side yard setback 15 feet. The existing combined side yard setback is 14.5 feet. The property involved in the application is located at 86 Howard Street. It's situated in the R5 zoning district and is shown on town tax assessment maps as section 115.11, block 2, lot 76. A copy of the application and proposal is available for review at the Department of Architecture, Land Use Development, Buildings, and Building Compliance during normal business hours. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing. Village Hall is accessible to the handicap by order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Village of Sleepy Hollow. We have applications parts 1 through 4. Attached to that is also a series of black and white photographs. We have a copy of the deed we have a copy of a survey that was conducted in August of 2017 for the title company. And then we have a series of drawings, A0 through A3. Sean, are the returns back from the
Yes, all the
mailings?
notice has been done.
All the notices are back? Okay.
Good evening, my name is William Senor Ruiz, I'm the architect, and I'm representing the owners tonight. So as you said, what we're proposing is a rebuild of the rear covered porch. We're gonna rebuild it and convert it to a screen porch. And then we're gonna add an 18 by 12 foot.
Speak in the microphone. Thank you.
We're gonna add an 18 by 12 foot rear deck. So our two proposals are pretty much complying to the zoning requirements. What we're here for, again, as the chairperson just read, is the existing lot size is undersized, which caused all these other variances that we need. But as far as what we're proposing, it's compliant, and we're here asking for those variances. I'll take any questions. I passed around the colored picture just in case, because you mentioned they were black and white.
Right.
And what we're proposing, just let you know, it's not applicant created. It's in character with the well, what we're proposing is in character with the neighborhood. It's not any detriment to the environment. And there's really no other place to place the deck.
I'm looking at an aerial picture. Behind your property is just
It's a GM.
the GN, it's, okay.
It's actually the east parcel.
I'm sorry?
It's the east parcel
It's the east
development.
parcel, okay.
I know, personally, it's not, the addition and the covering of the porch is not visible from the street, correct?
No.
Questions?
They're not increasing the degree of any nonconformities.
Right, right. So the footprint is not changing at all
Not at
in terms of the nonconformance of the setbacks. Are there any questions?
Not for me.
No?
Nope, nothing.
I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding 86 Howard Street? Hearing none, I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the public hearing is closed. I think, once again, we're here with a very minimal variance, and it's really based upon the existing nonconformities associated with that property. And there's plenty of instances of that within this village, and that's pretty typical of older communities. I don't think that it's going to create an undesirable change to the neighborhood or the character of it. It's not a detriment to neighboring properties by granting the variance. This seems like a simple benefit for the applicant, and really, I don't think there's much other way to create a screened-in porch than to create a screened-in porch. The variance is not substantial. It doesn't alter the existing nonconformities. It shouldn't have any adverse effect on the physical environment or the neighborhood, and it is not self-created, and therefore I would grant the variance. I'd make a motion to grant the variance.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Have a good
Good
evening.
night.
Do you need these?
Also-
And do you
yeah,
need
this one.
drawings? Do you want any drawings?
You have introduced.
If you want.
You have a lot of copies? You don't want
We just
extra
recycle
copies?
them.
I just found a box full of extra copies of plans for my house.
Okay.
Next one is James.
The third item on the agenda is James O'Connell, 130 New Broadway, a proposed dormer addition and alterations. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building at 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider the application by James O'Connell to add to and alter the second floor of an existing single-family residence where the following variances are required. Article 6, 450-34B, applicability of regulations adding to and altering an existing non-conforming building. The minimum rear yard setback is 25 feet. The existing rear yard setback is 13.62 feet. The second variance is Article 6, 450-35, Schedule of Regulations, minimum rear yard setback of 25 feet, the existing rear yard setback 13.62, and the proposed rear yard setback 13.62 feet. The property involved in the application is located at 130 New Broadway, is situated in the R4 zoning district, and is shown on town tax assessment maps as section 115.8, block 1, lot 72. A copy of the application and proposal is available for review at the Department of Architecture, Land Use, Development, Buildings, and Building Compliance during normal business hours. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing. Village Hall is accessible to the handicap. By order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Village of Sleepy Hollow. You have the application checklist. That includes a letter from Mr. McCarthy to Amy Roberts regarding the need for a variance. The Zoning Board of Appeals application, parts 1 through 4, copy of the deed, schedule of the zoning compliance, short environmental assessment form, property survey that was conducted 12/19/2011, the deed, a set of photographs, and a set of plans labeled ZBA 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And we also received today the
I
letter.
was going to say, we also received a letter today. Most of us received it electronically as part of the package from one of your neighbors. Are all of the returns in?
Yes.
They are. Do we have the letter? It's in the file. Okay.
You mean the letter from Walter Sacconi?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I was just trying to double check on
I got it in
that.
the email.
Yes, I read it.
I have several,
Do you want to read it into the record?
yeah, if I could, Sean. I know I've got it somewhere, but I've received about 300 emails today, so. Professor Judge, when is my homework due? To the members of the Village of Sleepy Hollow Zoning Board, dear Board, my wife and I, Walter and Barbara Sacconi, are 100% behind Mr. James O'Connell's request for a variance. I have lived next door to Mr. O'Connell's property for 85 years and feel this addition will enhance the house and is definitely needed. Not only will the new roof be in line with the newer roof added by the former owners, but will also give them headroom in the bedrooms where it is sorely lacking. Hopefully, their request will be granted and signed by Mr. Sacconi, Walter Sacconi.
It appears that there's no change to the existing non-conforming variance. True.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
No?
No.
I would make a motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on the application for 130 New Broadway? Hearing none, I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Are there any questions?
No.
It's fairly straightforward.
I would make a motion to approve the variance. Having looked through the package, I don't believe it's going to create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Certainly, one of your neighbors is very supportive of it. The benefit that you're seeking is pretty reasonable and can be achieved by what you're proposing. It is not a substantial variance requirement because of the existing nonconformity and the continuance of that existing nonconformity, not changing any of that. It shouldn't have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, and it is not self-created because it's a condition of the existing property. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Oh,
Go ahead, sorry.
fine.
All those in
I'll
favor?
second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Do you need, do you need any copies?
Need any of this?
Yeah.
Good luck at the
Yeah.
addition.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you, and good luck.
Yeah, you want.
Okay, I'll try to talk into the mic more.
I actually went by the area that you came right in.
Well, okay, so it's not visible?
No, it's dated.
Oh.
Okay, next up is KMT Architect, 180 Bedford Road, a proposed addition and alteration. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019 at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider the application by Hudson Pines LLC to construct additions, alterations, and conversions of the existing carriage house to a recreation building where the following variances are required. The first variance is Article 6, 450-34B, applicability of regulations, adding to and altering an existing non-conforming building. Minimum front yard setback, 75 feet, existing front yard setback, 34.4 feet. Maximum permitted height, 15 feet, existing height, 23.3 feet. The second variance is Article 7, 450-40E, 2A, coverage and open space, location of accessory uses in residential districts. The minimum front yard setback, 75 feet, the existing front yard setback, 33.4 feet. Proposed front yard setback, 33.4 feet. The third variance is Article 7, 450-40E, 2C, coverage and open space, location of accessory uses in residential districts. The maximum permitted height is 15 feet. The existing height is 23.23 feet. The proposed height is 32.18 feet. The property involved in the application is located at 180 Bedford Road, is situated in the R1 zoning district, and is shown on town tax assessment maps as section 111.17, block 1, lot 2.1. A copy of the application and proposal is available for review at the Department of Architecture land use, buildings, and building compliance during normal business hours. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing. Village Hall is accessible to the handicap. By order of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. As part of this package, there is the zoning appeals application, parts 1 through 4. The zoning compliance form, the short form environmental assessment, recording of the tax parcel map, recording of the deed from Westchester County Clerk's Office, and the deed from the Rockefeller Trust Company to Hudson Pines. And there's also a survey of the conservation easement on Hudson Pine Farms property. In addition to that, there is a binder of drawings labeled SP1, 2, EC1, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9, and A10. Are all of the returns back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Good evening. I'm Kim Martelli, owner and principal of KTM Architect. We're located in Portchester, New York. We are here on behalf of Hudson Pines LLC. The building in question is one of the accessory structures located within the property at 180 Bedford Road. That property is occupied by a principal residence and a number of accessory structures. The building in question was constructed in the mid-90s. It lies primarily in the town of Mount Pleasant, and when it was constructed then, it had received variance for front yard setback solely from the town of Mount Pleasant. We believe that potentially it had been deferred from Sleepy Hollow because there's no history of it having gone through a variance or an approvals process in Sleepy Hollow. At this stage, what we had done was we met directly with Mount Pleasant initially to determine the approvals processes they would like to go through, and as well with Sleepy Hollow. We're here tonight for the first of 2 zoning board approvals. Both municipalities will be reviewing the building for existence within the front yard setbacks, although they differ between the 2 municipalities, and also for heights. The structure is non-conforming within the height calculations for Sleepy Hollow. It was originally compliant with Mount Pleasant's calculations, as they calculate height from average grade within 6 feet. Sleepy Hollow calculates from curb line. The building is a unique alteration. The owners are looking to maintain the original structure. We are working with a company called Wolf that will be doing a lifting system, stabilizing the building, and we'll be constructing a level below it. The building will be elevated just shy of 9 feet. Right now, it's a single story with a second story above it. We'd be opening up that second story for double height volume. He'll use it for recreation facilities. You could see in the plans, it creates spaces for basketball court, there's a bowling alley. It is a large property with lots of potential. This becomes the rec facility for the residents. And the drawings that we did file with you just clarify, in addition to lifting it, there is a portion of an addition within Sleepy Hollow. That's the larger of the 2. And then there's a small addition on the opposite side that falls in Mount Pleasant. And what we provided was above and below elevations and sections. So in each drawing, you can see them comparatively. The highlighted areas illustrate the addition. So as I mentioned, it's going to be below the existing structure. So the 2-story frame structure today, will be 1 story is maintained in the white, and the addition will be set underneath it. It's a precisely 8.95 feet in increase. As I said, in Sleepy Hollow, we are already existing non-conforming with respect to height. Although there is a significance to that height in relationship to the limits of accessory structures, the building is very well screened. Although we have a small setback, we have a tremendous landscaping buffer as well as fencing at the perimeter. Most of the perimeter is screened actually by a brick wall, and that brick wall creates some of the facades for the buildings near to Bedford Road. But per the photos we provided, and if you've been to the site, you'll see it's a very well screened structure.
Did you say the building was constructed in the 1890s?
1995.
1995?
Yes, it's a relatively recent structure. Yep.
It
It's,
was built in
it's one of the
19
newest on the properties.
And I'm looking at the survey, which is attached to the application. There's something called a view shed zone. What is that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's showing up on what I have here.
It's actually, it's this document attached to the survey.
It's a master plan of the 75 acres that are owned. So it just, I'm looking at that precisely. I'm not quite sure what that is, a view shed zone. I don't know, but I could find out.
Do you have any perspective photos from the road? So, or photos, depictions, excuse me. So what it's going to look like to people driving on
Driving by.
Bedford Road?
So no, we haven't done those renderings. Yes, it's mildly visible as it is today, but we in fact could create those to show how the landscaping ultimately screens it if it's critical to the board.
So the proposal is 9 feet. Right
Increase-
now,
Correct,
I,
increase above what it is today.
right, I've driven several times, and I actually drove again today, but because it's a gated community, I can't go in.
Correct, right.
But you can't see it. I was trying to figure it out where
Where
it
it
is,
is.
and you can't see it. But
Yeah.
now with 9 feet, you might be able to see it.
Yeah. The peaks of the roof would remain as they are, so it's, again, it is still relatively low, because so much of it is peaked, and it's all dormers at that upper level, you'd still get just peaks of those dormers visible. Because you're seeing zero now, because it is relatively low
So there's
with
also
respect to the grade.
trees and everything around.
Yes, very, as we said, very well screened, and that's existing conditions without any additional landscaping.
Are you changing the roof pattern?
No, the existing structure remains and it will be lifted. So the idea is to maintain the integrity of the existing framing. We are
So you're
changing
just
windows.
lifting the whole first and second story,
Correct.
creating essentially a
Right.
second and third story by the addition of
Yeah. And the way, just to clarify, the way we're working with those 2 stories is, that 2-story building right now is being opened up. That center
Right.
frame floor will be open, that will be our double height space.
Right, but to the outside, there's
Yeah.
no, you
there-
can't tell whether it's been opened up on the inside or
Correct,
not.
right. There are window and door alterations, but the volume itself remains the same, shy of the east and west additions.
Right.
Where is it in reference?
So that's the highlighted one is the carriage
It's
house.
near the gate.
And yes, that's correct. The gated entrance is right here, and if you pull in, there is a
Take a
sort of
look to it.
skewed driveway that allows you access that'll be maintained.
So, what is do you know what the grade difference is between Bedford Road and where the carriage house is located?
Yeah, so right now, I'll tell you exactly what that is. Because we're using that grade to determine the average grade. The grade, I believe, is 323 at the street, and we are about 11 feet higher to that first floor level. So there's a significant difference between the grades.
Okay, I'm not following. So you're saying
It's like-
11 feet higher than 323? What I was asking is, what's the grade level of where the carriage house is
So
compared to the grade level of the road?
I'll tell you exactly, sorry, I'm looking right at it now. So the grade just about at the entrance to the driveway is 324, and the lowest level of the structure of the carriage house, I apologize, it's approximately a 5-foot differential. So it's on your SP2 sheet. The finished first floor is 329.34, and as I said, the entrance to
There is a
the
bit of
so the property's at 324. That's 5.34 feet difference.
Okay.
There's
I
a
see-
slight
I see where this
differential,
is.
a very slight differential between the existing slab level and the new slab level.
Right.
You'll see them stacked one above the other. It's .05.
I got you. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how much higher
Is it gonna be?
are we going than
8.95 feet is the.
8.95
8.95
feet
is the exact differential from the current highest peak to the new peak,
to the new peak?
Or
So you're
the lifted
still,
peak.
you're not coming very far above the road is what, how much of that roof line is going to be seen because of the delta between the road and where you are. A little higher up.
So these are just color versions. I believe you may have color, you may have black and whites, but there's one spot where we can actually peek through from Bedford Road to see one of the ridges. But if you look carefully, all three of them are hidden behind the trees. But even as it elevates, because there's such significant screening, it still has a tremendous buffer. There's a significant height to that screen that's sitting right now between the property, between the structure and Bedford Road.
So what is the, well, two things. One is, what is the variance you're going in front of the town of Mount Pleasant for specifically?
Mount Pleasant is seeking similar variances, alteration to an existing non-conforming structure by increasing the non-conformity of the existing variances, and also for height. They have the same 15-foot height limitation. The difference is that their measurement is from average grade within 6 feet of the building. So it's a slightly lesser variance in terms of height above 15 feet.
Right.
Yeah, will be a little bit less.
It's 329 versus 324. So those are the two variances, really paralleling the variances that you're requesting from the villages like
We equally sit within the front yard setbacks of Mount Pleasant, which is a 60-foot front yard setback. There's no differential for Mount Pleasant with accessory versus principal structures. All structures must maintain a 60-foot front yard setback, and this was consistently constructed at 35 feet away from the property line to the closest point of the principal structure. And it will be maintained in the exact same location, but elevated. So we're increasing that nonconformity by lifting it.
Right, increasing the nonconformity of the height, not the setbacks
Correct.
particularly.
Right.
Correct.
Even with the addition.
Even with the additions, those additions are further set back than the existing closest edge of the building.
Closest edge.
Right. We have studied a number of different ways to achieve what they wanted to, ultimately in all areas of improvements within the site, and all to date have been within Mount Pleasant. The goal is to try to work with all of the existing structures as best we can.
Maybe, the question is, why do you need the 9 feet elevation?
So one of the things I was clarifying, the function of that building includes one of recreation. So the particular usage they wanted to have was the height for a basketball court, so.
For the
having-
basketball court?
Yeah, it just happens to be in particular to that function. And what we did, you'll see, is we use those two lowest floors to be a double height space, and there's a mezzanine that connects the two additions, which are circulation elements. There's a billiard space, there's an arcade space for the kids.
What is the long-term plan for the property and the use of this?
It will be maintained as a residence for the owners. Yes,
So
and we'll-
there's no future looking down the road to say, you know, conference center or.
Certainly
breakfast
not
or-
to our knowledge. Yeah, we are working primarily with the builders under the direction of a single-family residence with the goal of ultimately working toward the Sleepy Hollow primary principal structure of the house, the main house. And all of our improvements to date have been to maintain the existing facilities. Some of the Mount Pleasant improvements are an existing stable with lodging for guests and their friends. And we've done the same with the Gatehouse building, in all cases trying to restore the original conditions of the structures.
I'm looking at the first page of the plans,
The floor plans?
the top page. And I just want to understand what I'm looking at. I think you have it.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah,
Right.
Is that one?
that's it,
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, site plan.
Gotcha, yeah.
The line with the dash and then the two dots,
Yes.
what is that?
That's the division line between the two municipalities. So if you look further up, that's the dividing line between which portion of the carriage
Sleepy
house
Hollow.
falls in Sleepy Hollow,
Oh,
which is about 30%.
no, I understand that, but what about
The
the,
heavier one?
no, it's a dash and then two dots, dash, two dots.
It
It's
looks like
going-
the road
Property
on
line.
top.
That's
Makes
what?
the This one right here?
No, on top. At the top, that looks like, yeah, that's it, right there.
So
That
those
area.
are, that's
The
property
property
lines.
line.
Those are all property lines. Yeah.
Okay, that's the
Um,
property line.
This,
So,
just to clarify,
Yeah.
this owner contiguously owns approximately 75 acres of space. we're looking at a limited area of 14 acres, and the 2 parcels in which we're doing work, which is portion of Sleepy Hollow, portion of Mount Pleasant.
Okay, whose property is that that would be the north side
On the other
of the
side.
property?
So I'd have to just defer back to my master site plan, which is a much larger one. I think you have handy a copy of it, but I know that these current owners have ownership of this property and this property as well. I just have to check that and make sure that they also have that as well.
Oh, okay, that's important. Because what I'm just asking about is the view from the north.
So
Of the property.
So to this end, if you look at the grading rises significantly toward the backside.
Right.
So there'd be no visibility from anyone beyond that to these structures here.
Okay, I just want to establish,
Sure.
you know, for the record in the future, that really no one has a view shed heading south towards the property.
That's correct, and if you see on the structure, actually, there's a tremendous rise. I think one of our documents is one of the topographic lines. We have individual topos of each of the, topographic maps of each of the structures. But this is the principal residence, it sits tremendously higher than the rest of the structures. And this is the only building that has views of all the other accessory buildings.
It's the owner of the property.
Correct, that's it.
Yeah, the main building is up on the hill.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been,
So yeah, that appears to be a good deal higher. You're looking at 335 to 340, probably.
Yeah.
in terms of elevation.
Yeah, we go
Of the
about a story and a half to
residence.
that.
The brick residence there, which was Mr. Rockefeller's house. And so across the road is still owned by the Rockefeller family? if I'm
Correct, we
trust?
don't have visible structures in view on that side either because
Right.
everything's well set back.
Right.
and as far as you know, there's no intention of using this property for rentals or other than their own.
Correct, there's no intention, at least within the work that we're proposing, to do anything other than maintain it as a single-family residence and accessory structures to that residence.
Right, in the work that you're
That's my
proposing,
concern.
I guess the long term is where there's a question. You know, it's a beautiful piece of property. And, you know, it could certainly be attractive for conference center or something along those lines. And the issue is, what kind of impact does that have going down the road on the resources of the village and issues of traffic? I'm assuming there's some parking, but, you know, you'd have to think of all of those issues. And that's something that I think in the long term, we're all very cognizant of, is that we don't want to necessarily see that situation start to come up at that particular property.
I would imagine that if they went for that, they'd be going through a relatively long-term use variance application to convert from the permitted principal uses to commercial uses.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just voice my concern is that we don't have a depiction of the perspective from Bedford Road. I know, you know, reaching back into my memory bank, we granted a height variance to the west parcel development. And I believe they did a pretty good job of establishing that the height variance wasn't going to interfere with the homes on Pecanico Street, I believe, or Barnhart. Barnhart. And they, you know, that was nice to see. And you know, I'm voicing my concern now while you have the floor still. I would feel better for not just your application, but the next application that comes in for a height variance, that we have an idea of what it's going to look like, you know, when it's finally built to the general public, so we can feel a bit more confident that it is in keeping. I know it's really its own neighborhood, but it's in keeping with the village, and so that's my concern. It's not a concern that I would vote against it. It's a concern I'd just like to see a depiction.
I follow what you're saying. Certainly with the east, or with the west parcel, at the distance back to Barnhart, the 6-foot variance appeared inches in appearance. And here, you're much closer. You're within 40 feet of the edge of the road, and that's, I think, part of the concern. It certainly is well screened, I will say that.
Yep.
Trees don't last forever, and then that's what happens when you lose your screening from larger. What is there a landscaping plan in terms of trying to add additional screening? Is that something that's being considered?
So we are in the process of working through the entire site landscaping plan with our landscape architect. It's a long-term plan, as you can imagine, with not only these 14 acres being addressed, but all 75 acres. We are putting that package together initially for conversation with Mount Pleasant, because it does entail proposed equipment to be on site, specifically a generator, and we'd like to present to them the entire site plan first, because that must go through a planning board process. But certainly we'd be happy to bring it to Sleepy Hollow as well, because we'd like this to be a cohesive approvals process. As you mentioned, this is a large lot, and there's a lot of privacy considerations for the owner themselves. So even on their end, I think their critical goal is to maintain the privacy for themselves. We respect the fact that the board does want an understanding of height, and if it's the board's determination, they'd like us to come back with that rendering, we're happy to do so. This is not a short process for us. So this won't be our first time here. We're starting here, and we know that we'll be back for potentially other issues. We already have some ideas in mind with improvements to the main house that we know will likely require variances. So this is just the beginning. We're happy to work with whatever the board's needs are. And like I said, we don't expect this to be a speedy process. And for us, even the construction of this building, these alterations are very long, thorough, and well thought out. So we're going to take time on our end, working through the details for actual construction, and working with our many consultants. So we're happy to appease the board so they feel ultimately comfortable with this decision.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't have any objections to asking for a rendering of what it's going to look like with the height. And if it's certainly not something that the applicant needs an approval on that quickly, if you're willing to do it, I would, entertain the idea of tabling this to the next meeting or as appropriate. And certainly, I think that's something that you're probably going to have for the town of Mount Pleasant, to make sure that they're looking at that height issue also. So I would think that it would be beneficial. Any questions?
I agree with you.
So Tim, you're looking for a point of view from street level?
From street level, what is that
Yeah.
rendering going to look like? So,
I think we're kind of talking about
Yeah.
just opening up that view. Here you've actually got a good vantage point of all three dormers, and we kind of, little step back so we can make sure we see end to end on the building. That would really
Right.
be the
Maybe an
ideal
outline.
rendering. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and an outline of what is
Right.
existing and what is proposed, so that it's certainly something that we can say. I would hold off on opening the public hearing, since I don't think we need to open that, or do we
You
continue
can
it?
open it and then continue it.
Continue it, okay. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this application? Hearing none, I would like to leave the public, I'd make a motion to leave the public hearing open pending additional information from the applicant.
Continue to the next meeting.
And
Continue.
continue to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for the board's knowledge, I think we're before Mount Pleasant either the 3rd or the 10th. So if we can get you illustrations before and you have it in advance, we'll do that.
Great.
Yep.
That
Thank
sounds
you.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, nicely done.
I agree with what
Yes, it's David Rockefeller's
With
property.
the zoning board in town.
I went out with
Do you
them.
know who the chairman is? Can you get me his contact
I know
info?
they are.
Thank you.
So we'll hold on to these for next month.
You keep that one.
Tim, we'll hold on to these for
Well,
next
yeah,
month.
please, hold on to those until next month.
What's the next one? That's in
Do we have a continuance on that one?
Yeah.
The next one is 120 Spring Street LLC for 37 Hudson Terrace. Public notice of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019 at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to hear and consider the application by 120 Spring Street LLC to construct an addition and alter an existing two-family residence where the following variances are required. The first variance is Article 6450-34B, applicability of regulations adding to and altering an existing non-conforming building. Maximum floor area, 2,415 square feet. The existing floor area is 3,528 feet. Minimum front yard setback is 20 feet. The existing front yard setback is 10.26 feet. The minimum front yard corner setback is 10 feet. The existing front yard corner setback is 7.51 feet. The maximum building coverage is 30%. The existing building coverage is 37.3%. Second variance is Article 6450-35, Schedule of Regulations. Minimum front yard setback 20 feet, proposed front yard setback 10.26 feet. The third is Article 6450-35, Schedule of Regulations. Minimum front yard corner setback 10, proposed front yard setback 7.51 feet. The fourth variance is Article 6450-40, Coverage and Open Space. The maximum building coverage is 30%. The proposed building coverage is 32.79%. The fifth variance is Article 6450-36D, floor area ratio. The maximum floor area ratio is 2,415 square feet. The proposed floor area is 3,646 square feet. The property involved in the application is located at 37 Hudson Terrace, is situated in the R4 zoning district, and is shown on town tax assessment maps as section 115.12, lot 2, lot 9. A copy of the application and proposal is available for review at the Department of Architecture, Land Use, Development, Buildings and Building Compliance during normal business hours. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing. Village Hall is accessible to the handicap by order of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. I have the zoning application, parts 1 through 4, a set of photographs immediately following the application, the short environmental assessment form, a copy of the EAF mapper from DEC, a survey of the property that was conducted 21 December 2017. We have the county recording and endorsement page for the deed. Also a taxation and finance form. And then we have the application itself, or the set of drawings itself, the site plan 100, A100, A101, A200, and A201 are the set of drawings. Sean, are the returns in on this application?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Good evening, my name is David Arango, I'm working for Rui Arellano, the architect, and this is Mr. Cerqueira, the owner of the property here. And like Mr. Chairman mentioned, and the things, we have like some significant improvements in the property. If you see with the existing site plan we have here, previous, they have like a storage here and like a cover entrance in this area. We remove all that things, they have like an existing patio there. And this entrance, we remove it also, to reduce, the coverage we have there. And we increase the grass area we have in that one. Also, they have like a oil tank and a patio here. And retaining wall was collapsing. We also improved that one too. And we create like a pavers in the back for permeable surface. We remove all the things they have in the front. We repaired the collapsing wall, and the wall was over the property line. We put them back, in the align with the property line now. The major changes is in the inside. They have before they have a porch was covered up here. We open it up the porch to be like consistent with the area, because you see the neighbors pretty much they have an open porch over there. We try to mimic the thing, and we increase the fixing the siding because they have some patching around, and we align the windows now. We make new windows to make the egress, and also I agree with the light and ventilation because the windows existing now are shorter for that ones. We increase that one for mega egress windows and light and ventilation compliant. Also, the owner, one of the things, he want to live in the second floor and the third floor, enjoying with the basement for him, and the first floor will be a separate apartment. I mean, it's 2 units. Before was like a separate, was like a couple rooms the owner rented, like an apartments, and it was a mess. Now it's, 2 units for residential.
7 apartments.
Yeah, 7 apartments so far. The major increase here is we want to make like a sunroof, because all the views from the river is here. We want to make a sunroof in this area, and make some decks, for each floor.
And can I just ask, what is currently in that area?
That
Is it-
one is a flat roof now.
Okay,
They want to increase that. That
Got
is the reason the floor ratio going a little bit higher, because we increased that.
oh, okay.
So the 117 square feet, the 117.83 square feet change
Yes.
is where exactly?
Yeah, that because we made this new.
That's 100 square feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
As you see,
Oops.
that is the area we increase in here. Because before was like a flat roof over this part. We are only that. But the house, we don't increase the coverage of the building. It stays the same footprint. Even
Right.
we reduce it, because before was like a covered area here.
Yes.
We take it out.
Right.
And we reduce, all the accessory buildings they have there. I mean, we reduce the coverage from the.
Yes, I see that,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
That's how they did the 37, 32.
Okay, so the footprint isn't changing, you're increasing the size of the upper floor?
Yes.
Right.
But the footprint is still the same.
Okay.
Can you explain why, I don't understand
Yes, sir.
the difference between the 37.3% existing building coverage and the 32.79% of the existing building coverage?
Back to that. You talking about the building coverage?
Yeah,
So you're,
Maybe because, like I mentioned before, we have this building here, this building, and this like a covered porch, or say, covered entry. We'll take this out, and also this part. And the existing porch in the front was part of the kitchen. Now, because we take it out and go back to like a covered porch, that we reduce the coverage area.
oh, I see. Okay, so
Yeah.
The light bulb just went off.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
It looks like you're adding another garage.
No, it wasn't existing, but they made like a room before. We go back to the garage was previously.
Okay.
Because for that precise zoning, we request one spot for every unit. That means we need it, if we make the garage, we don't need any, we're asking for variance for a parking spot in the street.
So moving forward, it would be a two-family home?
Yes, two-family home.
So there's not gonna be, you're getting rid of whatever, was there an apartment in the basement?
Yes.
Okay, so but there were 2 apartments in the basement. They're now gone. So there's no more apartment in the
No.
basement. And it's gonna be a two-family
Two.
home.
Yeah.
So it's reducing that potential. I take it there were no letters received regarding this application?
No, sir.
No. Are there any additional questions before we head to and open the public hearing?
Well, we kind of had a question in regard to parking.
Sure.
Now that you're going to have 2 families, is there any space for parking?
Like I said before, for this precise zone, you need to request one parking spot per unit. We have a garage, and we fix the other garage to have 2 parking spots. I mean, every unit has a parking.
So, okay, so there is 2 garages.
Yes, 2 garage, like, if you see.
Two
the-
bays
So-
to garage.
Yeah.
You're
If
well
you
within
look back,
compliance then.
If you see here,
Okay.
before was only a 1 car,
Okay,
but now if you see this one, you see the 2 spots.
that's
in order.
the 2.
Yep. And,
Okay.
Perfect,
and then, and the elevation, this one was like only a door, like single door.
Right, right.
Now we open that to match the garage, the other one.
That's
Is
nice.
that the side elevation?
Hmm?
The side?
This is the side elevation, this is the back one, and
This is on the corner.
is a corner lot.
Oh, okay.
It's a corner lot.
Okay.
Hudson Terrace is here and Hudson.
Right.
And this is the front and this is the other side.
So this is the front of the house?
That is the front house.
And it looks like the back had, or the side had an entrance as well?
Yeah, that one is the, with that we put in the new
Okay.
garage.
I got it.
Yep.
Other questions?
No?
None.
I would make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
Just a moment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak on this? Could you please come up to the microphone and tell us your name and address?
Hi, my name is Inessa Bliznitsova. I am an owner of the 39 Hudson Terrace, so I'm a next door neighbor. And I just want to say that I support these changes because it will be nice to have, a 2-family house, and it will be beautiful, and there will be, extra parking, and it will add to the value of my house and the houses around me. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address this application? Hearing none, I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any history regarding the building that we should be aware of?
There's good history that we have a new owner that's going to
Okay.
renovate it and make it a compliant 2-family house.
All right.
Yeah, I assume when it had 7 apartments, it was not in compliance.
Somehow it didn't seem like it would meet the electrical code.
There was a lot of little rooms.
Yeah.
A lot of little rooms.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
Is there any comments or final questions from the board?
Sounds like a lot of improvements, actually.
Exactly, yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a very nice
All right. Well, then, I would make a motion to approve the requested variance I think it's anything but an undesirable change. It will actually be a desirable change to the character of the neighborhood, and certainly, as attested to by one of the neighbors, it will actually be beneficial to the neighboring properties. I think that the benefit to the applicant is achievable by this. It doesn't really change the footprint. If anything, it shrinks it just a tad, and that the nonconformities are existing by the very nature of a corner lot. The variance is not substantial. As I said, I don't think it's going to have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood, and it is not a self-created hardship. If anything, this new owner is making efforts to improve the property. So therefore, I would make a motion to grant the variance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Do you, once again, we're asking, do you want your
Forward to the
extra
improvements.
plans back? They're expensive.
That's great. That's great, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute.
This is here, that's yours right there. Okay,
Thank you, good luck.
thank
Do
you.
you need more?
He has
All
a-
right,
Command
to
is a lot.
recycling they go.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you. Not too bad. We're moving this along a lot
Yeah.
faster than I thought today was gonna go. Lastly, we have minutes to approve from March,
Yeah,
April, and July.
yep.
We have not had, there was no May or June meeting, and no August meeting, so we're a little behind on approving these, and I'd like to make sure that we go back over them and let's try to make sure we get them done. I do not recall seeing any major issues with any of these, but I must admit, it's been a few weeks since I've looked at them. I would make a motion to approve the March 20th minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I would make a motion to approve the April zoning board of appeals meeting minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I would make a motion to approve the July minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I would like to make a motion to close this meeting of the zoning board of appeals of the village of Sleepy Hollow.
Second.
All those in favor of